Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis is now floating the possibility of pardons or sentence commutations for members of the Proud Boys who effectively led the January 6th Capitol riot, if he's elected president.
Of people that should not have been prosecuted. They just walked into the Capitol. If they were BLM, they would not have been prosecuted. Then there's other examples of people that probably did commit misconduct. They may have been violent. But to say it's an act of terrorism when it was basically a protest that devolved into a riot, to do excessive sentences, you can look at, okay, maybe they were guilty, but 22 years, if other people that did other things got 6 months.
DeSantis was referring to the sentence of Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, who was sentenced to 22 years this week after his conviction for seditious conspiracy to overturn the election. Tarrio wasn't at the Capitol riot because he was arrested days earlier, but prosecutors successfully argued that he maintained command over the Proud Boys as its members stormed the Capitol and even took credit for the riot on behalf of the group. Some of the other long sentences were for a retired NYPD cop, Thomas Webster, 10-year sentence for assaulting an officer with a metal flagpole. Peter Schwartz was sentenced to 14 years after he was convicted for throwing a chair at officers and then spraying them with pepper spray. 52-year-old Christopher John Morrell, a Florida Proud Boy, is actually on the run. He fled right before his sentencing. He was found guilty of 7 counts, including assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers while using a dangerous weapon and a bunch of other crimes, which included engaging in physical violence, etc. And the list just goes on. As for the BLM protesters, well, I actually wanted to go look this up, right? The AP found back in 2021 that they were often given tougher sentences than January 6th. Now, that was before some of these longer sentences, with more than 120 of them at the time who pled guilty or were convicted at trial of federal crimes, including rioting, arson, conspiracy. More than 70 defendants who'd been sentenced at that point had gotten an average of about 27 months behind bars. That's the average. At least 10 received prison terms of 5 years or more. And when you plead guilty, remember, you generally get a lesser sentence. Look, I'm glad no one is seriously calling for their pardons. But the idea of sort of suggesting we're going to commute sentences, and Donald Trump has been saying the same thing. Let's bring back Scotty Nell Hughes, a former campaign surrogate for Donald Trump. John Fugelsang, host on Sirius XM's Progress Channel, and Larry Sharp, the Libertarian candidate for governor in New York. Scotty, what do you make of this?
Well, let me just say, J6 is a disaster for Republicans. And every time the Democrats can bring it up, and they have highly politicized it, we never find out the full truth and the full picture of everything before J6 started, what happened during, and most importantly, what's happened. 2.5 years later, we're still having federal law enforcement officials this week show up at a man's house and arrest him and break into his safe, or don't break in. They get into his safe and find out what guns he has. 2.5 years, they're still investigating these. Yet, we still don't know who burned down the church outside the White House during the Black Lives Matter protest. There's a lot of things that we're going to be investigating.
The reason is because one was on video, right? Well, they posted it on social media. Now they have to go find.
So it's not. We don't have video of who was burning down the church in front of the White House.
There was no church burned down next to the White House.
Did you miss the one that was caught on fire? Well, that was
the one that Donald Trump posed in front of with the Bible that was fully intact. Yeah, it wasn't burned down.
There was no damage done to it.
You said it was burned down.
Well, not burned down, but there was burning done to it. Okay, I correct myself. But that being said, let's make sure that the punishment fits the crime.
Right.
And you don't
convict
a man
just for these guys?
There's no sympathy.
There's Ron DeSantis doesn't care about these people any more than Donald Trump cares about these people. He is pandering to Trump voters, desperately trying to stay in this race. He's pandering the Trump voters so hard he should adopt Eric. That's how bad it
Larry,
is.
Final
he doesn't care.
100%, he's right. DeSantis is just a desperate bad candidate who wouldn't know a pro-positive policy if it jumped up and bit him in his bum. He has no idea. He's always against something, anti-this, anti-that. Now he's using this. He's got a crutch because he's a bad candidate, and he always does this. He's going to fail again. You're right. He's desperate. Failure.
Almost over, Ron. It's almost done.
Yes.
Ron. Almost done.
All right. Ron DeSantis, surrogate, Larry Sharp, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.